If you defend billionaires, you don't know how much 1 billion is. You don't understand how big that number is, and that's okay. The human brain literally can't comprehend numbers that big. But
well, I just seen it come out some put $600 to the side every week. That damn near all I got up front. If I put 600 to the side, I'm gonna be outside. Fuck is you talking about? I'm gonna be going to the side all motherfucking week. Fuck you mean 600 to the side? Be homeless as a motherfucker. Shut the fuck up.
Did you know that Gen Z would have to make $66 an hour as a minimum wage today to match the buying power back in the 1970s?
Americans are barely holding on. They're barely getting by, and they just can't seem to get ahead. And we always hear people say things like, well, just start saving money. Well, in today's video, I'm going to show y'all some clips of people reacting to basically telling us, save money. Save money when? We don't even make enough money to save.
Did you know that Gen Z would have to make $66 an hour as a minimum wage today to match the buying power back in the 1970s? Think about that. $66 an hour when the minimum wage right now, I think it's averaging $8 to $10 an hour. It would need to go up $56 an hour to match the buying power that people had back in the 1970s. This is why I think that they're totally lazy. They don't want to go out and work. They can't save money. Gen Z does not want to go out and work when they know that by the time they get to 65, 67, and probably by the time they get that age, the retirement age is probably going to be 70 or 75, there won't be any Social Security left because it will all be spent. So it was all the money that they took from them on top of not having any buying power because their wages don't match the economy. They don't want to get off the couch. They don't want to stop watching The View on ABC. They don't want to stop watching MSNBC. They don't want to stop being a victim. They don't want to stop and think, what can I do to find the American dream? Until they figure out this wage gap, I don't know what the fuck they're going to do. But remember this, you'd have to make $56 more an hour right now to have the same buying power that people had back in the 70s. So there's that. Comment what you think in the comment box.
if you defend billionaires, you don't know how much 1 billion is. You don't understand how big that number is, and that's okay. The human brain literally can't comprehend numbers that big. But to put it into perspective, 1 million seconds is about 11 days. 1 billion seconds is 31 years. Most of us haven't even been alive for 1 billion seconds. If you were to stack $100 bills to make 1 million, it would be about 3.5 feet tall. If you were to stack $100 bills to make 1 billion, it would be taller than the tallest building in the world. Over 3,000 feet tall. If you deposited $100 into a bank account every single day from the birth of Jesus Christ until now, you wouldn't even have 1/10 of a billion. In fact, if you were to make $100 every single day, it would take you over 27,000 years to get to 1 billion. Over 27,000 years. That's longer than all of recorded human history. You spent $10,000 every single day. Every single day you woke up and spent $10,000. It would take you 274 years to spend 1 billion. Even if you spent $10,000 every single day of your life. The difference between 1 million and 1 billion is just about a billion. And I don't think people understand that. You can work hard and become a millionaire. There is absolutely no way to become a billionaire without exploiting somebody.
Being poor is more expensive than being wealthy.
It's getting out of hand at this point. In this economy, y'all need to stop telling people to save $400 to $600 a week. Bitch, that's fucking insane. I have a good, crisp little $5 to put in saving, but that's all I got. Because what? And then y'all be like, yeah, y'all be getting on $5 little matcha. Y'all be getting these little trinket buy-in and woo-woo-woo-woo. Yeah, bitch. Because if I had money, I'd be getting a yacht. But all I can get is a little $5 lip gloss. So yeah. What?
Well, I just seen a nigga talking about some put $600 to the side every week. That damn near all I got up front. Nigga, if I put 600 to the side, I'm gonna be outside. Fuck is you talking about? I'm gonna be going to the side all motherfucking week. Fuck you mean 600 to the side? They gonna be homeless as a motherfucker. Shut the fuck up.
And that's a lot of our responses when we hear someone say something as idiotic as that. You know, save 600 a week. You know you have to make 17 an hour to make 600 a week. Most people aren't coming out of college or coming out of, high school coming out of trade school, they're not making 17 an hour off rip. They're not. A lot of people have to survive off of 600 a week, and you're talking about save 600 a week.
No idea how the average person can afford to live in 2025. Like, if you were working an average entry-level job, what are you supposed to do? I walk outside, sneeze, and spend like $300. I live in Miami, and if you were even relatively outgoing, like you go to dinners and get drinks sometime, you can blink and spend $10,000 on random bullshit in a month. I don't know if people are just drowning in credit card debt, and then you have these boomers telling the younger generation, oh, just buy a house. Bro, I live in not even close to the nicest apartment in Miami, and I'm paying $6,300 a month. If I wanted to buy a house with a backyard, that shit's like $4 million here. Outside of becoming an entrepreneur and making millions of dollars, or literally just like inheriting wealth, what the fuck are you supposed to do? I don't mean to sound out of touch. I just feel like our generation is cooked.
I am literally to the point of life where crying in, well, my parents' car, literally like begging God to like intervene. Like, literally, what is going on? What is going on? Literally sitting there being like, do you want me to be homeless? Like, is that the plan? Like, what is the reason? And I'm genuinely losing it. I've applied to a bunch of grants and scholarships. I've applied to jobs. I leave to go back home to Spain on Sunday. I started trading, and this week has been an like the past 2 weeks have been absolutely horrific trading weeks for me. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't know what else to do, and I genuinely don't have energy to put into other things. Like, I open my laptop to look at opportunities, and I'm literally just so drained that I'm like, I don't have energy to even look at these or type or do anything. And the research lab job that I was supposed to like start in January in Barcelona, I had to find a grant for it to be able to get paid, and I haven't been able to find a grant, so there's no point in me doing that because I would just be working for like 6 to 7 hours in a lab a day, not getting paid. So then there's that, and now I'm just like, fuck my life. Post horrible trade day breakdown.
I know it's millions of Americans that are feeling the same way as us, as we can see, by just being straight up confused on how nothing we seem to do and try or even succeed at works when it comes to making more money. Even if you do something well, the money might not pay out. That's what the cause is for a lot of this homelessness crisis, living in vehicles, food, cost of food, all of this stuff. It's because people just can't afford it. The rich are getting richer while the poor are getting poorer. And if this is something that interests you, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this video, because that's what I do on this channel, is talk about the cost of living crisis and how to survive it.
Americans are giving up because we have no incentive to keep going. There's no jobs. There's no jobs. There's a shit ton of student debt. The depreciation of our degrees happened like that. Nobody can anticipate what the job market's going to look like. Nobody can anticipate what civilization is going to look like with the boom of AI, with the collapse of the climate, with the economic collapse, with the dismantling of human rights and civil rights that were already under attack. There's just no way to plan and predict your future. Nobody knows whether, nobody can buy a house. Nobody knows whether they have the security to start a family. Nobody knows where is safe. Nobody knows how to establish their goals and how to enact any action upon those goals. People don't know if to leave. People don't know how to leave. People don't know where is safe to go. there is so much upheaval. This is the death of an empire, and this is the death of all of the ways we were taught to imagine our lives unfolding. So that is a very terrifying thing, and I think people are going to respond, obviously, in an array of ways, but the ones that I'm really seeing are complete denial while looking right at it. And I mean that to say that people are registering the disruption, and these are for people who haven't had their day-to-day fully dismantled yet because of this, but I've seen this like in people who are pretty like decently well off, but still, like, you know, everyone is vulnerable to what is happening, but to the you know, kind of lower, like, to lesser vulnerable people, they're kind of just tuning it out because it's too much, it's overwhelming, and they're going on as though these systems are still going to be going on. They're still putting money into their retirement savings. They're still trying to figure out if they can invest in a house. They're still tracking when they, you know, are going to get married and have their babies and all that, you know. People are wanting to fight to carry on as business as usual to maintain the facade of normalcy, which again, normalcy is rooted in corruption. So it isn't doing anything to quote unquote keep the peace or stay safe. In fact, I think that's deepening the...
And once you realize, the crazier thing is that rich people make more money off of homeless people or off of poor people than they do off of other rich people. You will understand why no one wants to exactly change what's going on. Just think about it. If you know, when you go to the store and you have bulk items, you save more money the larger, you know, quantity of said item you buy. So if you buy a 12 pack of this, you're gonna, technically you spend more money, but each thing costs less than if you were to buy a 6-pack or 3 or just one by itself. But if you're broke, you can only afford to buy the 1 or the 3 or the 6 instead of buying the 12, the 24, and saving, you know, more money per unit. That's what unit cost is, how much per item. Same thing with things like washing your clothes and eating.
How banks made 12 billion in profit last year from overdraft fees. That's profit that they literally made from people having no money.
Every time this comes up, I want to talk about it because I find this so interesting how so many people don't understand that you can't budget yourself out of poverty. Being poor is more expensive than being wealthy. Not just because of the like by volume money you have to spend, you know, the percentage of your income that you have to spend, but the things you buy are actually more expensive per product. And I was talking to a girlfriend I had some years ago, you know, and she brought up the question. She's like, I just wish more people had financial education and they could, you know, do better to learn how to budget themselves a little better. And maybe that would help. And I had to explain to her, I was like, when I made $15 an hour, my ex-wife, who I was married to at the time, this is going back like 15, 16 years ago. She made like $8 an hour working at the Meijer store in Michigan. And so with that money, we were down to like sub $1 left over, paying all of our bills. We had no debt, but that is how tight we were budgeting. I would go to the store and we would go to buy toilet paper, and a 4-pack of toilet paper was almost $4. So let's just go ahead and pretend $1 per roll. Now, if I had been able to spend $20 on toilet paper, I could have gotten a 48-pack. I could have gotten that toilet paper that I still would have used, but had I been able to buy it in a larger quantity, I would have been able to get it for 40 cents a piece. So much of the things that poor people engage in are because they literally cannot afford the more expensive option. Another fantastic example, and if you've been with me for a long time, you've heard this. When that same time frame, we were having to go to the laundromat to wash our clothes. It would cost about $80 a month to go to the laundromat to wash clothes for 2 adults and a baby. Why didn't you just buy a washer and dryer? When you're budgeting down to the penny, you can't afford to just go spend $200 on a used washer and dryer. Now, when I got a raise, I went from $15 an hour to $25 an hour. my paychecks were substantially bigger. And the first thing I did was go buy a washer and dryer. Now that washer and dryer paid for itself in 2 months. We're paying $80 a month. It essentially paid for itself in 2 months. Now, every single month moving forward after those first 2 months, I have access to an additional $80 in my bank account that I didn't have before. You throw the toilet paper on there, over that, like, just those two little things, it's $84 a month that I now have access to that I didn't have access to before because I had the financial power to make the smarter financial decision. When you are poor, you do not have access to this power. And that's just two little baby examples. When you're poor, you know, and you guys have made it this far, I want to know what other examples, like these are my two favorites because they apply to me, but I want to know like other examples that you've seen like this.
Let's just normalize not having to spend money every single day because you really don't need to. I know there's this old saying that it costs money just to walk outside. Do me a favor. Go outside your front door right now and let me know if you get a notification on your debit card. I'll wait. No notification, right? So it doesn't cost money to go outside. Let's just be honest. But it's not easy. You actually have to work at not having to spend money every single day. Whether that's grocery shopping for the entire week, paying all your bills on time, filling up the gas in your car once a week, eliminate your driving everywhere to where you constantly have to put 10 here, 10 here, 10 here in gas. Stop all that. When you pay things in full, you don't have to keep spending money every single day. Let's stop and normalize. We can go 3, 4, 5 days without having to spend $1. Everything that we have is at home.
I'm not even going to hold your hand when I say this. I am, however, going to ask you to please not scream in public if you're watching this video. But all financial advice that you are receiving is meant for a different world. All financial advice that you have received, like from books, from TikTok, all of that built up financial advice was meant for the world we didn't get. The whole principle of like, you can pay off your credit card debt. No, you can't. The idea of paying off your student loans. No, you can't. You can't. And the system is set up that way. The advice that we got about using high yield savings accounts, even investing in like the S&P 500, the advice we get from the I Can Teach You to Be Rich guy, the advice that you all have gotten from David Ramsey, the advice that we get is meant for a world that does not exist. You cannot strategy your way out of poverty or debt in this present world. And one of the best examples of this is Bradley on a Budget, because the only way that Bradley demonstrates that one can actually strategically make their way out is through extremes. And I don't think any of us could live in the extremes that he does. And like, I mean, we all know Bradley has money trauma and he talks about it. And I think I'm really glad he's always really open about it online because it helps to contextualize his behavior. But that is not something that any of us can do. And so what we are seeing when it comes to financial advice is all a fantasy because it is a belief that we will one day get out of, and the system that we live in now, what has happened since January 1st of 2025, there is no escaping this. This is not to say that there's no point and we should all exit this mortal coil or like get in debt further. We can keep trying. We can keep making decisions. We can keep trying to do low spends and no spends and all these other things. But if you are counting on one financial system from one financial philosopher or another, just know it probably won't work. And it's not your willpower, and it's not that you're not trying hard enough. It's that they could not fathom the level of financial crisis this country is in. And I don't mean the government. I mean us, the people. And we were put there by the government.
Stop blaming everything on capitalism. You say you can't pay off your $80,000 student loan debt. I literally saw you spend $10 at Chipotle the other day, jackass. You say you want a house, but your Netflix subscription with ads is $8 every month. Jackass! You're not serious about this shit at all. Take the $8, cut it in half, put 4 of it on a house with a new 50-year mortgage plan, take the other 4 of it and stuff it under your mattress for retirement. Oh, wait. Oh, wait. You decide to take the $8 and get a vanilla iced latte from your local coffee shop. That's the big money move that you decide to do, right? You decide to take the $8 and go out with your friends, right? That's what you decide to do. If you saved the $8 for 800,000 years, you would be able to afford anything that your heart desires. But instead, you just complain. That's the problem with people in your generation nowadays. Stop complaining. You have no financial literacy in your brain. Stop blaming capitalism. Stop complaining. It's getting old.
Okay. All right. Listen to me. A very wealthy guy who is on his deathbed decided to tell me something. And I was like, wait, what? Okay, listen. Do you know we're all going through a crisis? It doesn't matter what age you are. Everybody in America is going through a crisis. But it's not the crisis they're telling you about on TV, and you're not going to hear about it, but you have heard about it. You thought it was called a midlife crisis. See, when I was growing up, a midlife crisis was when you had sex with your secretary and you bought a red sports car. I didn't know what that meant. No. Here's your crisis. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? And who lied to me? Okay, we're all told, at least us, we're told, go to school, get good grades, get better grades when you go to college, get in good college, and then you go get a really good job, entry-level job. Then you work up to manager, then you work up to supervisor, and then you work at your job for 30 years because you're so grateful for that, and then you get your pen or your watch, then you retire, and thank God you have some money to retire on. By the time you're 40, 50, you realize this whole thing was BS. And then you're going through a crisis. No. Here's the thing. You can go through this crisis at 16, 28, 30, 40. It doesn't matter. When you see it, you can. Do you know why there is a crisis? It's because the 99% were given a completely different script than the 1%. They don't tell their kids this. All the stuff we've been told, generation on what to do in this life. And even though we saw better, progress, we thought it was working. The 1% are never told to do any of these things. They don't tell their kids to get into a really good school and get good grades. That's just guaranteed. They don't even tell their kids to follow the law. They tell their kids to know the law. They don't have to follow it. They tell their kids, if you get in trouble, call me first. Let me know. That's their indoctrination to the law. And that is why you go through this crisis. That is why there's a Gen Z stare. Because the Gen Zers already see the BS that is not working. They see the script and they're like, this script doesn't make sense. That's why they're staring at us. Like, oh my God, you're falling for this? You guys are falling for this? They don't have anything to say to any of the generation. They're like, are you guys crazy? And that's why Alpha are going 6'7", 6'7", this is bull. Even the kids see this bull mess because the script doesn't work. The 99% script, it's fizzling out and we're seeing the BS for what it is. We have to change our script and start adopting the 1%. Now, I know we don't have their economic means to do so, but we can do things and change our script. I'm changing mine.
So a lot of Americans are just starting to get mad at people saying idiotic things like that, like save money. And we do need to come together as a community and change the way that we even raise the new generation. But no matter what we do, because once again, when you have billionaires investing money into, poverty to keep people poor, that way they make even more money, there's really nothing you can do about it. But like I say in previous videos, there are other options. Things like building a van or a box truck and traveling America in it. That's a fun lifestyle and it's very affordable. Fun and affordable. Moving abroad. A lot of people think America's the only option, my parents included. I literally, every time I go and visit my parents, I have to show them, look at this apartment for $200 a month. For $200 a month in America, you're going to be living in a cardboard box on a sidewalk. Oh, look at this meal. This giant meal costs $2. This meal in America is going to cost $25. You just got to put it in reference to the kind of life you can live. So people say well, how are you going to make money? Yes, you do have to find a way to make money, but it's way less. For example, you only have to find a way to make $1,000 a month post-tax over there compared to finding a way to make $5,000 a month post-tax in America. So, that's just the thing where it's like, if you're willing to put the work in, there are other options. And that's what I'll be making a video about tomorrow, is how I'm leaving America, how I'm doing it. And, you know, because I have had people ask me, can I make a video about how I'm preparing passports, visas, all of that. I'll be doing all that tomorrow. But until then, remember, no matter what happens, as long as you're alive, life goes on. And subscribe. We're getting close to that monetization, man. We're getting like 50, 60 watch hours a day on average. We need those subscribers coming in too. That way, as soon as I hit that 4K watch hours, we start getting paid. I'm already at 2,000 within a month and a half. Let's keep going.